7. All still getting there. I can see 1, 2. The deep one from the last well. She's sitting down. Pick it up.
G'day punters, welcome back to the MacBet NRL review video. Today we'll be taking a look at round 3, some of the results there and how we played. Corey, welcome back, mate. Bit of a flat round.
Yeah, we bled a few small little units there, but few hard luck stories. But I guess in the grand scheme of things, results will go your way. They'll go against you as well. I think over the course of a year or even many years, it all balances out. So
absolutely, and yeah, definitely could be expected after the absolute fill up we had in the first couple of rounds. And noting we only lost the 4 units over the week, like it wasn't a particularly bad round. It was negative 10%. March is up 35 units, 31%, and yeah, that's the results for the service to date. So still traveling quite nice. Your worm graph is still trending upwards, which is nice. But yeah, what would you put down the round to? How do you think you played overall?
Yeah, well, I think in most cases, we were sort of on the money in terms of, I guess, the games and how we thought they were sort of going to go. Obviously, in the weeks prior, we seen quite a few games go under. Yep. 2 of our bets involved getting on the overs in this game. Both of those games went overs, but obviously we sort of partialed them into some margins and things like that. So I guess the thought in a lot of the bets, and I'll sort of explain a few of them, was exactly right. And we definitely went wrong, but we're just coming up short in other areas that were sort of affecting it. So yeah, I think as a whole, it's not a round that I feel was too harsh or sort of way off the mark, but just results just didn't fall our way. So.
All right, well, we'll get into the review of each game from round 3. Okay, jumping into the first match of the round, it was the Dragons and the Sharks at WIN Stadium on Thursday night. The Sharks emerged victorious, winning 36-12. Corey, I'll let you talk through the few bets we had here.
Yeah, we had a few bets here just in the player performance markets. In terms of the game, it was pretty much a wet one, but Sharks are pretty dominant and they come away with the win there. But I guess in terms of the bets themselves, we had the Hunt versus William Kennedy bet there. So with that sort of situation, both players don't kick. They're not necessarily going to be massive scorers, but I guess William Kennedy's likely to cross the stripe. But Ben Hunt, in his situation, tends to make a lot of tackles. He's probably one of the bigger defending halves in the comp. So coming for an underdog side in this situation, you get pretty good value for someone like Ben Hunt. In the end, he ended up having 2 try assists as well. So sort of an easy watch on that sort of aspect there, even though we did sort of take the shorts. The Britain Nakora one, sort of coming to get up against Finucane and Rudolph. 3 guys all on the one same side, but Nakora was sort of a bit undervalued here. I thought he should have been close enough, near enough to favourite in this market. As for the game, he ended up having 41 tackles, so it was a whopping effort, and was only one short of the match total there. The last bet there with Tariq Sims, he only played about, I think, 33 minutes, something like that. So not sure if that's the intention going forward, something like that. But I guess the ticket was confetti after that one there. So
sure. The early match on Friday was the Tigers against the Warriors at Campbelltown Stadium. The Warriors won here 16-12, and we only had the one little bet.
Yeah, not a game I had a high opinion of, to be honest. Like one of those games where you just look at it on paper, you know how bad the Tigers are going, you just assume the Warriors easily win, and something that obviously always looks easy in hindsight, but at the time I sort of didn't want to chase a result like that. Yeah, just one little small player, Reece Walsh there. He's the team's goal kicker, so he's always going to score well there. But I felt like he was very undervalued here. Although he's $1.67 against 2 sort of easy opponents here, it just seemed like he was easily going to make up the base stats, things like that. So he come up against Harris Tavita and Nofaluma. Obviously, Nofaluma gets plenty of meters, things like that, but just on a default bet there, it was pretty good value. I think we priced it up at about 128. So no, that was a good result in the end there, and pretty easy watch because I think he ended up on about 70 points in total for the game. So
yeah, definitely an auto bet, probably one of the shortest ones we've backed so far this season. Yeah, good to see it hit the line. Okay, the late game on Friday, it was the Rabbitohs and the Roosters. Pretty entertaining match, and there was pretty much the Latrell Mitchell show on Fox. They couldn't seem to get the camera off him the Rabbitohs managed to finish in front, winning 28-16. We had a fair few plays here, Corey.
Yeah, well, and obviously a couple of those on Latrell, so that helped a lot. So not something you generally want to take too often, especially when you favour the other side. But in this case, they really did tend to undervalue Latrell in this match. So I think quite a fair bit of emphasis on Tedesco, and rightfully so. But Latrell's still the far better player, and especially when he's kicking the goals, you're getting 4 points a pop there. In terms of the other bets, obviously the Angus Crichton bet, bit of a hiccup there. Obviously the 365 rules there, we couldn't take that bet in the end because he did get moved to the bench. Luke Keary had a bit of a quiet game, but he came up against Johnson, who scored a try, which doesn't help. But yeah, in terms of that market, it seemed a bit of a default bet, but in the end it went down. Victor Radley, sort of a bit of a stiff one here. He ended up with 39 tackles, still over what we expected to have. But classic workhorse-like performance from Cam Murray. He had 42 in the end, so pipped us by a couple. But yeah, getting $5 for Victor there, so a bit stiff there. And then obviously the Roosters took 1-12. They're a bit off that night. Rabbits obviously finally returned to a bit of form. Wasn't the sort of tight contest that we thought it might be, but a bit more resolve from the Roosters, and maybe a result that could have gone our way, but not to be.
Early Saturday game was the Penrith Panthers and the Knights at Carrington Park. Panthers won here 38-20 over the Knights. So, yeah, Knights showed a bit of ticker.
Yeah, it was a sort of an interesting game when obviously Barnett had his brain explosion, got sent early on. So we dusted 2 units early days there. But in terms of that sort of momentum of a game, Knights were well in the contest. So it was sort of a real tough one to swallow. You knew that Knights was sort of going to just keel over and get pumped, but they really stayed in the contest, and they were only down by 6 or 8, I think it was, with about a few minutes to go really, and the line bets only just got done on the in the last minute there. So yeah, that was a bit of a stiff one to swallow. Obviously, we took the unders in the margin there. I put that sort of down to the Barnett situation that sort of opened the game up. 13-12. Knights did well to probably score as many points as they did. The other bet we had there, a couple of bets. We had Bradman Best and it was Viliami Kikau in the most meters group against Frizzell. Frizzell was quite short. It was about $1.50, something like that. So I had them all very, very close. In the end, Best got done by a couple of meters there. So a bit brutal, but that's just the sort of way it goes sometimes. And then, the final bet, we had the 2 units on Luai Coruscant. Sort of went 2 units here on these sort of double plays, sort of just to explain, it's just 2 people in one. But when you talk about this situation, you're talking about an attacking half and a defending hooker. So generally when one goes well, the other one's probably going to maybe be a bit shyer and vice versa. So when you undervalue 2 guys like that, it's probably a good position to play. So even if you're wrong in terms of how the game momentum will go, generally the performance-wise will fall in your favour, providing your numbers are right. So.
That's some good insight there. Okay, Storm and Para was the Saturday Arvo game at Amy Park. The Eels spoiled the Storm's night there, 28-14 victory. Ray Stone redemption late, and he's done his knee or something?
Yeah, done his knee. His next game will be in Dolphins colours. But if you're going to leave a club, that's probably a game you want to leave it on. He scored a try with a bit of luck, and then he obviously gets a match-winning try in the end as well. So, he's a good player, so it'd be a little handy pickup for them. In terms of the match, obviously it didn't go our way. We had Melbourne there, but they were a bit sort of classic, sort of uncharacteristic Melbourne-like performance in terms of defence. They just allowed some easy points there at times. They sort of had a few early chances there, a couple of disallowed tries, so it didn't go our way. And then even late, they sort of led by 6 and sort of just gave up. So sort of a bit stiff there. We obviously took the overs in the line there as well. And sort of I guess not an easy watch, but a game that definitely looked like there was going to be plenty of points scored on a dry track down there in Melbourne. In terms of the other bets there, we had Felice Kafusi in the group most tackles at long odds, a bit of a default bet there, sort of closer in the market, had him about 750. Didn't really come close in that one. I think he got about 25, and one of the Bromwich brothers had about 35. Reed Marnie versus the Bromwich brothers there. Obviously, in a game like this, you've taken an underdog defensive hooker against sort of an edge and a middle there against on the favourite side. So sort of good position, although it is $1.65. In the end, obviously, Eels had a lot more ball than we expected. So it sort of made it tougher. But yeah, just still in the end, Reed was just two workhorse-like in defence there. Mitch Moses, this one was sort of a bit of a tough one. We took it on the basis that Gutherson was taking the goal kicking. So Gutherson kicked the week before. Moses had his little injury niggle, and Gutherson got 3 from 3. So I sort of felt like that was going to continue. It didn't in the end, and 2 try assists there from Moses didn't help either. So yeah, that was a bit of a tough one there. But Pappenhausen over 58.5. Don't really want to take these sort of high totals, but he was on about 57, 58 before he scored his try in the end there. So he ended up on about 80 in the end, but that was a pretty good one. I think he had about 200 odd meters there in attack. So big game from him. But yeah, no, just a tough game to watch in the end. So
late Saturday game was the Raiders and the Titans there at GIO Stadium. Tough watch if you're a Titans backer or a Titans fan. Raiders got up 24-22, and the Titans were leading 22-0 at halftime, weren't they?
Yeah, very tough one to swallow, and I guess it capped off the sort of day where a few results were just naturally not falling our way, and that's what happened. I'm pretty sure it was 22-4 at halftime. They only got a late try there too, Canberra. I've ducked out to grab some dinner, and I've come home, and it was the press conferences coming on, so I've had to rewatch the second half, knowing that Ricky was smiling in a press conference, and I couldn't work out why.
That's painful. You went down to Reef, got the seafood platter, and came home. Wished you went and got the Maggie noodles, didn't you?
Platter for 4. I've gone straight to the ticket to cash me ticket, and yeah, it's done me big time there. Basically, an unintentional early crow, you could say. So no, that was definitely a time. I was shocked. I got home and I'm like, what? It's unlike Ricky to be smiling in a press conference here. So,
yep.
But yeah, here we were. And then I watched the game, the second half back over again, and yeah, just shocked. But I wouldn't Titans weren't the worst in that second half, but they were definitely, the Raiders were pretty good. Don't get me wrong. But yeah, you still shouldn't lose a 22-0 lead. That's just sort of unexcusable. It doesn't matter how good a team is really. So yeah, there's a bit of a tough one there. We sort of, I guess it's about a 7-unit swing in the end on those two early plays we had in the Titans and the overs. In terms of the other 2 bets there, Tino, again, like the Angus Crichton one, was unfortunately a void as Starling came off the bench, even though, Tino easily accounted for the tackles there. In terms of the Brimson one, obviously Starling does come off the bench, but in this market it is fine because it is player performance. But yeah, Brimson sort of not the sort of usual sort of potential he can be. He had, I guess, somewhat of a mediocre game, and in the end, Starling probably played about the minutes I expected, but yeah, just made too many tackles to equate for that one. So.
All right. I thought the last game was a tough one to review, but this one's Max Payne as well, a little bit as a Broncos supporter, and Corey is as well. So it was the Broncos and the Cows in the Queensland Derby Sunday afternoon at Suncorp. I was sitting there with my beer, a little smile on my face pre-game, and my hopes were pretty quickly dashed. Cowboys winning 38-12. Terrible display by the Broncos.
Yeah, it was sort of a weird one because obviously Cowboys were good, Broncos were bad, but unlike the week before where they sort of got put under a little bit of pressure and they sort of put up a solid wall to hold on and get the win over the Dogs there, they just folded over and keeled over pretty easily in this one. So it was definitely embarrassing to watch and sort of a return to the past 2 years. I hope it's a one-off and they bounce back. But and obviously with the margin bet there into the unders, sort of felt like this was heading along the paths of 2015, 16, 17, those sort of years where they had a lot of tight games. And given that the way the season has gone, that seemed like a very good play in this situation. And fortunately, it didn't go our way. In terms of the bets, bit of a stiff one there. Cohen Hess went off early with a shoulder injury, so that one was confetti there. And then obviously we had Gilbert against Ricky and Capel, and same with Cohen Hess. Ricky went off, so it was pretty much Gilbert versus Capel on this, and Gilbert, despite Capel's sort of defensive efforts in recent weeks. Gilbert's a bit of a workhorse himself, so got a nice little price there at $3, and that hit the line nicely. The other 3 bets there, all on Adam Reynolds. Sort of a weird one here. He was sort of undervalued. I'm not too sure why. Like they're a favourite side at home.
Yep.
Goal kicking. Yeah, I sort of just didn't really get this one. Like I know he came up against Huss in one of those markets, and Huss is a perennial scorer, but still very undervalued in these markets. In the end, that bet versus Huss was a dead heat. Fell right on the even to the meters was right on the money there. So we copped a half win. The Carrigan bet seemed like the easier of the 3, if anything, and that was the one that got rolled. Carrigan ended up, I think, with about 45 tackles or something like that. So it was always going to be a tough ask. And saying that, Reynolds had about 53 or something as well, but Carrigan just too many meters and tackles to get the dollars there. And then obviously the one with Turpin and Tomololo. Tomololo sort of got rested towards the end of the game and didn't come back out, which helped a little bit. And yeah, Turpin obviously with Billy Walters on the bench, didn't expect too much from him. So yeah, it was sort of a game that didn't go our way, but sort of did go our way a little bit in terms of some of the bets. So
absolutely, something from the wreckage there if you're a Broncos supporter. All right, last match of the round was the Sea Eagles and the Bulldogs Sunday afternoon. I'd just about had enough rugby league by this point. I just fell asleep on the couch after the Broncos game, to be honest. The Sea Eagles won 13-12 in a pretty close one there. We only had a couple of bets.
Yeah, it was spirits were a bit low, that's for sure, after the Broncos game. But no, another wet one, just like Friday. And yeah, it was sort of a bit of a strange how this was sort of going to end up. But in the end, it was a bit of a, like, pardon the pun, but a bit of a dogfight. And the Eagles got home with a DCE field goal late there. We had Tommy Turbo in the group most meters market, 6 guys in that market. So to take $2, it generally has to be something of good value. And he definitely was. But then again, obviously with a bit of wet conditions, it doesn't definitely make it easy. So only had the 1 unit play. In the end, he covered it pretty easy. I think he had about 230 meters, maybe even 240 or something. That was a nice little collect there. The Burton one was just a bit of a tough one. Went down to DCE pretty tight there. So DCE obviously playing a bit more of a defensive role with the game being a lot tighter and low scoring. He's a bit like Ben Hunt. He makes a lot of tackles for a half, and I think he ended up with about 25 or something. So sort of relying on Burton to make some, maybe score a try, kick some goals. Yep. First 2 tries, penalty goal and the first try that the Dogs scored, he missed both goals. So doesn't help. There's an easy 16 sort of points that sort of goes out the door when you miss some easy goals like that. So yeah, a bit stiff in the end there, but no, at least we got the 1 win and sort of onwards to round 4.
Okay, that concludes our betting review of round 3. Like I said before, a bit of a small losing round for us, but travelling quite nicely after the first few rounds. Results-wise, we've officially got the MacBet NRL service up on our new website. So that's $50 per week. You'll get access to the Discord group where Corey's in there. He's all over it. He gets the 10-minute warnings out before each bet. You'll get notified for each play. We usually have a couple of bets before the round kicks off. But yeah, that's about all from me. Corey, thanks for your expert analysis as always. And thanks everyone for watching.
See you, mate.
Thanks, Corey.